there's still heaviness, there's still suffering in the world, all of the things, but just to take a minute to just enjoy some joy in your memories in the past and also those that are to come.
You're listening to Good Faith Weekly. I'm Mitch Randall.
And I'm Missy Randall.
We're here each week exploring the intersection of faith and culture
We find people who stand up, speak out, and step forward.
for inclusion, freedom, and justice for all.
It's time for Good Faith Weekly.
Brought to you by Good Faith Media. Merry Christmas and welcome to Good Faith Weekly. On this episode, Missy and I are going to share some of our favorite Christmas stories. And for you parents out there who have kids in the car, you may want to wait to listen to this episode. Then later on the pod, Missy and I are going to unpack the first Christmas story, with Missy sharing some issues she has with the story. And then finally, Missy and I share one of our favorite Christmas memories. It is something we love and adore that we're happy to bring to you each and every year. It is a fantastic pod, so stay tuned. Hello there, Missy.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, we've made it
We have made it to the end of the year.
to, at least in the pod year, we have made it to the last episode
Yes.
of 2025. We are, I don't know, crawling our way across.
Limping, really kind of marine crawling
That's
to
right.
the finish line.
So do you remember what I said last year on our last episode of the year, or on our Christmas episode?
I'm going to take a guess. A stab in the dark. Merry Christmas.
No. Well, I mean, yes.
I don't know. I don't remember at all.
You don't remember what I
No.
said? It was so poignant.
Oh, well, I
No.
probably should remember.
I'm teasing. The only reason I remember is because I went back and listened just to see kind of where we were. And it was just a fun little exercise.
Mhm.
But basically, when we came on the end of last year, I said, it's a finish line I'm not sure I want to get to.
Right.
And I will contend that was true. And we talked about it feeling like we were in a horror movie and the world was shouting, don't go in that room, don't go in that room.
Right.
And we did.
We did. Yeah. Yeah, we were just still about 2 months, well, almost exactly 2 months from the presidential election.
Right.
Some of us were surprised. You were not. You had predicted it, and it was feeling very heavy at the time. So, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, we went through it. And I'd love to say, obviously we survived the year and I've been thinking a lot about that. But then just the reality that, a lot of people didn't. And let's just be honest about that. I mean, and a lot of people didn't because of circumstances that came from Project 2025.
Yeah. It's hard to believe that it hadn't even been a year yet.
Right.
And there's already been so much attached to this presidency and this term because of Project 2025. And you're absolutely right. There are a lot of Americans and people around the world
Right.
who are suffering and who have lost their lives because of him.
Of course, the first two obvious examples I have are, ICE
Mhm.
and the disappearing of folks or deportation of folks.
Right.
And a lot of them we are unaccounted for and
Yeah.
we don't know. The other thing, there's a measles outbreak that is
Yeah,
taking
you
life.
shared some numbers with me the other day that was just mind-blowing to me.
Yes, and you just put me on the spot, and
I'm
I
so
don't
sorry.
remember those numbers.
But no, I mean, like the numbers prior to like 2 years ago were
Right.
minimal.
Like there were like 8 deaths or something in 10 years, and now we've had like
Yeah. I
several. I mean, I don't know. It was
don't know
in
what the exact
thousands.
numbers are, but I mean, it's in the thousands now reported
Yeah.
cases. So it's crazy.
So yeah, so I mean, just acknowledging that we made it through.
Yeah.
But a lot of people didn't or are suffering very directly.
Right.
But it just got me thinking about how to close out the pod year, and I was remembering growing up on
Mhm.
Christmas Eve,
Yeah.
kind of the way things played out in our house. After everybody went to bed and the house was quiet, my dad would always sit in the living room and he
Mhm.
would turn out all the lights and
Mhm.
only have the Christmas lights on.
Mhm.
And he would just sit there
Mhm.
and just reminisce in his mind and think about, Christmas memories and
Yeah.
just kind of be in the moment with joy. And
Right.
granted, everything leading up to that, as a child and even a young adult, I remember was very stressful.
Yeah.
Lots of arguments over budget or how much we're going to do or families coming in town, all the normal things. But I never forgot that my dad did that. And so as our boys have grown up, as we've been married, I've always done the same thing. I just like to sit after everybody goes to bed.
Yeah.
Admittedly, in the last several years since the boys were older, I can't outlast them in
Right.
terms of when they go to bed.
Yeah,
So
no doubt.
sometimes it's not necessarily Christmas Eve, but there's usually just a time there where I like to be alone in the dark with just the Christmas lights on and reminisce.
Yeah.
And so this week's pod, or our last pod of the year, I just want to maybe metaphorically do that.
Okay.
We'll just
Love that.
turn off the lights, pretend
Yeah.
pretend to turn off the lights. The soundboard can be our Christmas lights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Just so you know, I do that as well every morning at 2:00 when I get up to have to.
Yeah.
As I'm passing down the hallway, I just marvel at the lights.
Yeah. So I think today's episode will stay largely personal.
Yeah.
And for that, I know this will be meaningful for you and me.
Right.
My hope is that our listeners will enjoy some sweetness of our memories, but also this will prompt them to remember their own and to sit in joy for a moment.
Nothing
we know
better than Christmas stories. Yeah.
there's still heaviness, there's still suffering in the world, all of the things, but just to take a minute to just enjoy some joy in your memories in the past and also those that are to come.
Yeah.
So with that said,
Mhm.
I have compiled a list of some of my favorite
Oh, I can't wait to hear some
Christmas
of these.
memories, and I know you have some too.
You know, what's interesting is that because of my career and my profession, I've told a lot of these stories from the pulpit. And
Right.
so I've, crafted them. I've used them many occasions. But to be honest with you, we don't hear a lot of your Christmas stories. So I'm excited about this.
No, you really don't. And many of them are from, the time since we've been married and had our
Right.
own kids. But I know you were saying the other day, you're like, I just can't remember.
Mhm.
And just kind of marinating on this all week has been fun because it's brought back some
Oh, sure.
memories of our time together as well as my childhood. But the first one I thought about that was so funny. There's a lot of lore in my family, as is in yours and any family. But one of the first things I remember hearing about Christmas from the time I was born was that, so my brother, before I came along, my mom and dad, of course, tried to take him to see Santa.
Mm-hmm.
And as every young child did, he was screamed.
Yeah.
So, my parents were young and they're like, well, we're not going to do that again. He's scared,
Right.
obviously. So then I came along and they also did not do that because, they didn't want to scare me.
Sure.
Well, lo and behold, I was, from what I've been told, I was a very early talker.
Mm-hmm.
I know this will be shocking to you guys, but like weirdly early
Yeah.
talker. And
Yeah.
so
like a couple of weeks into your existence, you were talking.
right, because
Yeah.
I had things to complain about, you guys.
Oh, it's cold in here.
right. All manners of things. But anyway, so my mom tells the story of I had gone to, I don't know if it was like Sunday school, because I was little bitty. I wasn't in school yet. And I guess some of the kids in Sunday school or my class were talking about going to see Santa Claus.
Right.
And I was 2,
Yeah.
I would say, no more than that. And I went home and I was upset. I was so upset at my mother, and I could not believe that she had not yet taken me to see Santa Claus so I could give him my Christmas
Unforgivable.
list. It was absolutely unforgivable. Like I said, I
And
was
there's nobody who holds a grudge like 2-year-old Missy.
or old Missy either. Yes, no, I can hold it, and I can be bitter about it. So I was quite upset, and so my mom's like, okay, well, let's go see Santa. So she packs us up, and she's got me. I was 2, and my brother would have been 4 or 5 at that time, and we go see Santa. Well, I marched right up to Santa, right? Because I've got a list, and I've got things I've got to say to him.
Sure.
My brother hides behind like the the little set of Christmas tree or
Right.
whatever, and so I go up and I'm like, all right, Santa, here's the deal. These are the things I
You start
want.
negotiations.
Oh, 100%.
quickly.
These are the things I want. And by the way, there's my brother over there, and he's scared. So Santa ends up kind of coaxing my brother. So we have one of
my
the best
gosh.
Christmas pictures of me at 2 years old sitting so proudly on Santa's lap, and my brother sitting there like a look of terror
Oh
on
my
his
gosh.
face. But it was just like, it was the sweetest.
That is so cool.
But doesn't that story totally check out?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Not knowing your family, 100% checks out. So.
Absolutely. So
You know, what's funny, you mentioned Santa Claus. I mean, in Tulsa, we would travel around. We'd go see every Santa that there was. So we would go to
you got to make sure you're covered,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. So we would go to the mall in South Tulsa, the mall in East Tulsa, and, go up to North Tulsa and see that Santa as well. But then we would go where the real Santa was, and of course that was Utica Square in Tulsa, which was the ritzy district. We did not live in the ritzy district.
Utica Square. Square has a great Santa.
Yeah,
We
a
took
little
our boys
village,
for,
yeah.
in fact, I think the last time we took our boys, they were, I think one of them was 16 and 14 or something like that. They were very
Yeah.
old, but we forced them to go see the real Santa at Utica Square.
Yeah, so we had to have all of our bases covered, but man, when we went to Utica, we knew we were talking to the big guy.
Exactly. No, I agree. So do you remember the year that our oldest thought he was going to beat the system, and he was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked for his Christmas list, and his Christmas list had exactly one thing on it. Do you remember what that was?
I do not. I remember I remember that, but I don't remember what was on the list.
An elf.
That's right. He went for an elf.
He thought he was going to beat the system.
Yes.
This is so him. He thought, I'm not going to ask for a list of toys. I'm just going to get my own elf, and then he can just make me toys year round.
Oh my gosh, that was so great. This is also the son who we asked at one time, what are you going to give up for Limp? And what did he say?
All hope.
All hope.
All hope. Like, not even skip a beat as a teenager.
Give up all hope for Limp.
And then wouldn't you know, like a few weeks later, Stephen Colbert used that in his opening.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you stole that from my kid, whatever. But anyways, you remember also when we were early married for several years, we would always get a real Christmas tree. I grew up with real Christmas trees.
I grew up with real Christmas trees until it landed my brother in the hospital because he had asthma.
Right. Well, I mean, similarly, sort of. Every Christmas, I would lose my voice.
Mm-hmm. Christmas.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I was going to say, because you and your dad were like, this is the best part of Christmas.
Oh, there's nothing better than singing Silent Night and you not be able to talk.
Exactly. So I was thinking about that. And so, of course, once we put 2 and 2 together that the tree was what was causing that, we, of course, went to an artificial tree. Right. And now, good news, I get to talk all season long. So, yeah, that was funny. There was also, I was thinking about the year that our oldest, we were, at your parents' for the holiday, and our oldest lost his 2 first teeth.
Yes.
Over the holiday.
That's when we discovered that the Tooth Fairy was actually in competition with Santa.
Exactly. See, here's the problem that comes in when your oldest child loses their first 2 teeth on the same night at the grandparents' house, right?
First grandson.
Yeah, on both sides.
Yeah.
So we start scrambling, and this is back in the day. You guys that are younger aren't going to understand this, but there was a day where you couldn't just get cash anytime.
What?
Well, you could get cash, but you could only go to the ATM and get $20 bills.
Right.
There weren't any.
And you had to travel to go to the ATM.
Exactly. So of course at Christmas time, if you have cash on hand, what do you have? You've got 20s generally, because you've been to the bank to get, Christmas money to put in kids' cards.
Additionally, to make it harder is no cell phones, because we couldn't even look it up. We had to just know where the ATM was to get cash.
Yes, you're right. Well,
how did we survive?
I don't know. In fact, the funny thing is, several things that I've been noting on my little list of memories this week, I'm like, gosh, how did we do that?
I know. How did we do it?
How did we do that? I'll circle back to that in a minute. But needless to say, that year, our kid's first encounter with the Tooth Fairy returned him $40.
Cha-ching!
So yeah, that ended up being a really expensive lesson for the Tooth Fairy.
Yep.
Who then had many, many more visits to make, and then another child came along and had many, many more visits. So that was
absolutely.
Kind of funny.
So when a bell rings, an angel gets its wings, but when you lose a tooth at your grandparents, you get paid.
But speaking of we don't understand things today. There was one year our oldest had asked for this. It's a swing that you hang. Remember that? It was called a rainy day combo kit.
Yeah, I do remember
at the
that.
time.
In fact, I think it's still out in the garage.
We have it in the garage. I'll never get rid of it. You would hang it from the door frame. And it could be a swing or a trapeze. And I mean, I think now that I've seen them online, and of course they're way better with more contraptions. But anyways, he found this in a specialty catalog, right? And I don't know, I blew it off because at the time, again, if it wasn't at Toys R Us, we didn't have Amazon, you guys. There really wasn't online ordering at that time either.
Back in the 70s, we called it a chin-up bar, but we did the same thing with it.
Okay. Well, so I didn't pay too much attention. And then a couple of days before Christmas came around, and he was talking to somebody. I think my mom might have asked him what he wanted for Christmas. And he was like, the only thing I want is this rainy day combo kit. I was like, oh, shoot. So,
yeah, that's what you said, but go ahead.
Right. So for the first time in my life, I'm scrambling to find this specialty toy catalog and again, no Amazon or anything, and find the number, and I'm calling. I'm like, how can I get this thing here? And paid a squadillion dollars in shipping to get it there the next day. But lo and behold, he had the rainy day combo kit for
Wow.
Christmas. But
Santa is magical.
the funny thing was, under the tree, we had Santa gifts set out and everything. And then what we had installed the rainy day combo kit on a bedroom door that wasn't visible from the living room.
Right.
And so when he came downstairs and opened all his gifts, and he just sunk and got so sad because it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I realized, he really obviously wanted this, and it was so fun to tell him, hey, can you run to the bathroom and get my this, so that he would walk by and see it. It was a really sweet Christmas, and just my first time of ever having to really chase down that one gift, which
it was such a great gift. He was such a climber and a flipper. I mean, he would walk up the walls. He was crazy.
Yeah, so I'm not
it.
sure how much. I know sometimes there's a video game console that comes out now that's hard to get, but I'm not sure that the sporting part of Christmas still exists.
That's right. Back in my day.
Right. Just, it was like, it was an event for everyone,
Absolutely.
So anyways, I feel like I've been talking so much. So why don't you?
Those are great stories, and a lot of my memories, I mean, kind of left it up to you to remember the stories of the kids growing up. But more of my memories are, when I was growing up as a kid in East Tulsa. And like I said, it was always fun. Our family from Texas came up, and, we would have our house where the Randalls would gather on Christmas morning and Christmas afternoon. But then during the day, we would go over to the Sheffield house where Granddad and Granny lived. And, one of the things that I remember are just some of the trinkets, especially at Granny's house. And you talked about your dad, staring at the lights, and you doing that now. There's a couple of things. One, there was this nativity scene that I think everybody had the fake moss on top of the,
Yeah, we had that.
And the figurines, certainly out of, straight out of, Western Europe or Eastern Europe. But there was something mesmerizing about that nativity. And I would just sit there for hours, and especially hold the baby Jesus and rearrange the shepherds and the wise men. And it was just something, even through, the problems of the imagery of the nativity, there's something very special about it and sacred about it. And I remember just sitting there for hours playing with that. But then also on our tree, and every tree of my cousins, exist Granny's ornaments.
Yes.
And my grandmother handmade these ornaments and sewed them and put them together. And they had sequins on them. And there were different scenes. There was the Wizard of Oz. There was Raggedy Ann and Andy, Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. And they were just wonderful. I mean, just wonderful, because she made them. And I can remember just holding them in my hand and standing there by the tree and feeling them. And of course, she also handmade our stockings that hung over our fireplace. And it was just, they had sequins in them, and they were so special. Like, I just still remember holding them and thinking about her. And, her and my granddad, of course, just changed our lives because they were such hard workers. And it's just a fond memory for me. I still get a tear in my eye when I think about it.
So you mentioned that, and I'll add in, because when you say sequins, she individually sewed the sequins on all of the ornaments, and then every family on your grandmother's side had a tree full of these ornaments, which just represented hours and hours. I'm sure number of needle pricks and everything else. And your granny wouldn't have cussed, but
well, it's not that anybody could hear her.
Those are really sweet stories, but you have left out the very best story from your childhood that I thought you would tell.
Oh my gosh, it is iconic and classic. So I got to tell it quickly though. And so I am a teenager at this time, and we have moved to the south side of Tulsa, and it's one of the first Christmases in our new house. And so my brother and I lived in the upstairs, the second floor, and I lived on one end of the hallway. He lived on the other with the guest room in between us. Well, we got ready for bed that night, and we went and got into our beds and went fast to sleep, anticipating Christmas morning. Now, my brother's 5 years younger than me,
Mhm.
so quite a bit younger than me.
So he's
And
still
so he's
experiencing
really
Christmas
excited.
in a different way than you were at
Still
that
absolutely
point.
excited
Yeah.
about
He wants
Christmas.
to be up. You're like,
Absolutely.
I'll sleep until 10.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll do Christmas brunch kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, he's super excited about it. So I don't know if he even slept that night, but I'm down the hall, sleeping away, sawing logs. And so I'm sitting there, dreaming Christmas dreams when all of a sudden I hear the fire alarm blaring down the hallway. And I just shoot up out of bed, my eyes wide open. And so I run to my door, I fling my door open, and I look down the hall and I see that my mom and dad have run up the stairs and, they were in bed. And because, this thing is blaring. We're terrified. A fire, has
Right.
sparked it because we did have a wood burning fireplace downstairs. We thought maybe one of the embers had caught fire on the carpet. We were terrified. But yeah, it's blaring throughout the house. And so I am staring down the hall. I'm staring at my mom and dad who are at the other end of the hall looking. And in the middle, Missy, in the middle of the hallway is my brother on a chair with his arm extended up to the smoke detector with a lit match that he's extinguished. Smoke rising to the sound of the smoke detector blaring. And with this big grin on his face, and he looks at me, he looks at my mom and dad, and he says, "Well, since we're up, let's have Christmas."
It's like 4:00 in the morning
It was
or something.
so early in the morning, yes.
I love that story.
It was so typical of my brother.
Oh, yeah.
And he would still do that today.
100%
Yeah.
he would. But you know what the poetic justice is in all this is he's now raising 2 precocious little boys.
is.
And so we're getting to snicker at
And
some of
if I didn't think that they might burn the house down, Uncle Mitch may slip a match.
Exactly. Did you remember probably one of our favorite Christmases happened when we still lived in Texas, and somehow the stars all aligned and we were able to kind of have a bunch of our family together.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Do you remember this?
Oh, I so remember this because I remember where we ended up spending the night.
Right. So we had in our house 17 people sleeping in our home on Christmas Eve.
No, what was I was the vivid memory of this is as people began to fall asleep that night, hearing the chorus of snoring that came from the game room.
It was so bad. And of course it's Christmas time. So half of us have, colds or, or your asthma's flaring up or whatever. So it was a noisy home, but we had, every bedroom was full. And like you said, we had a really big game room. And so there were probably 7
We had
people.
kids sleeping in the closet. It was amazing.
Yeah. One kid was sleeping in a closet. So, but it was so much fun. And that year, my cousin had actually done a deep dive and had been able to locate and obtain my grandfather's medals from World War II and was able to present those to him at that Christmas. So it was really special. But the funniest part of that year, Christmas Day was on a Sunday. So you had to go to church.
Had to get
and
up
at least,
and go to work.
Yeah, you had to at least do. I think we just had church service that
right.
day. None of the rest of us were going, of course, but you had to go. So we had everybody situated. We had the older folks in safely tucked away in bedrooms. Younger folks were on air mattresses in the game room. All of this, and then you and I looked around and we're like, "Where are we gonna sleep?" And so
there was no room in the inn.
Absolutely. Every couch, every surface, every air mattress, everything was taken, every surface. And so you and I ended up sleeping under the dining room
Hand
table.
to God, underneath the dining room table.
On the floor. But what made it even better is my parents had a very elderly Shih Tzu dog.
Yeah,
that
Saki.
was Saki, Saki. And so Saki was a Shih Tzu, and they have notorious breathing issues, and she was very old.
Right.
So she had even more breathing issues. So she was so loud, sleeping right next to us.
Yeah.
And so here we are on the floor under the dining room table with a sick elderly dog beside us, snorting and snotting the entire night.
In
all
the course of
while,
everybody else snoring upstairs.
Yeah, so all the while you had to get up and go to work the next
but we
day.
started giggling. It was so funny.
It was funny. All we could have done was laugh.
It was such a good time. That was a great Christmas. You're right.
But it's one of my fondest Christmas memories. It's just piling everybody in and figuring out how are we going to fit everybody. And it was so much fun. We had, your parents were there, my parents, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great.
So kind of the last little memory I want to bring up, because it was just so funny. I came across a picture. You mentioned, being at your grandmother's house and in the nativity set. We had one that was just olive wood that sat out every year. And I remember coming home one day and seeing that our youngest son had put up all of his army men with machine guns on the roof. You remember this?
I do remember.
To protect the baby Jesus from Herod.
Always mindful of that one.
It's hysterical. It is so funny because you got
I totally forgot that, but I could so picture it now.
No, I have a picture of it. So that was
all
really
the green
fun.
little army men, protecting the baby Jesus.
And then thankfully, I'm realizing now how lucky we are. And you probably haven't even thought of this, that the Elf on the Shelf craze.
So glad that
started a little just beyond our kids' age group, but as they got older, a couple of years we would have contests and we would all take turns with the boys to see who could come up with the craziest thing. That was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun.
But nothing I had to stay up late for. So just I don't know, it's been nice just to do this exercise and to think about just the joy of the years gone by.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this time of the year is that you do get to kind of reflect on the memories of Christmases gone by. And, every family does it, hopefully. And I know sometimes it's difficult memories, but there's a lot of good memories out there and a lot of sacred memories and special memories that individuals have and families have. And so it is a great exercise to do.
So I guess I would just encourage everybody to take your moment, turn out the lights. Literally or figuratively, just leave those Christmas lights on and just kind of soak for a moment, because I know it's funny. I was in a craft store the other day looking for something, and there was an older couple, around the corner from me that I had passed. And I mean, when I say older, I mean much, much older than I am. And I heard the husband he kind of turned to his wife and he goes, "Remind me why I'm here." And it was so funny because the way he said it wasn't like, "Remind me what I'm looking for," but it was like, "Remind me why I'm here." And I thought, if that's not just the perfect ending to this year, remind me why I'm here. And as I thought about these memories, I just thought, there are so many reasons and so many just spots of light that we have in our lives that I want to take a break a minute from the heaviness and remember those.
Yeah. Well, these memories I've really enjoyed, kind of reminiscing and walking down not only our childhood, but when the kids were, or when our boys were little, they're always great memories to do. But it is a reminder that it is the Christmas season, and the Christmas story is the reason for the season, Missy.
So I've heard.
Christ back in Christmas.
So, again, and listening to last year's episodes and just kind of catching up. And I remember, I don't do New Year's resolutions.
No.
Because the minute I say I'm going to do something, it is the kiss of death. I'm not going to do it.
No. Well, we all know that.
Terrible at setting goals and then accomplishing. I set it and then it's like I get paralysis by analysis. I can't move forward. So last year I told you I was going to choose a word, and I know a lot of people do that. And my word was imagination.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that several of our interviewees this year
absolutely
have mentioned
They've used that
because
word,
when things are dark and when things are bleak and we don't know what to do, the only way out is to use our imagination. And I feel like so many folks that we've talked to this year are doing exactly that. Like, how can we work outside the system, or how can we work within the system to imagine something new and different and fresh? And so, for me, it goes both ways of imagining something better to come, but also kind of reimagining and looking back at what you think you've known all along.
Right.
And one of those things I've been looking back on is absolutely the Christmas story, how that's been taught and perceived, and wrestling with some things that I'm finding difficult.
Yeah. The one thing that I continue to be amazed in the Christmas story is just its subversiveness, its realism, because it's been so romanticized over 2,000 years. And a lot of that has to do with the rise of European kingdoms and, European literature, as well as here in America and the commercialization of Christmas. But you really think about what happened on that first Christmas, it is mind blowing because you have this young woman who is unwed, who is pregnant. So you have an unwed mother who would have been called a welfare queen today.
Mm-hmm.
You have her husband who is a day laborer
Mm-hmm.
who has to go down to Home Depot every day just to find work, who would be categorized as a lazy SOB who couldn't keep a job.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the family, the couple, the creator of the universe decides to utilize and create this narrative around these two people. This is a throwaway story in our society. Nobody would know these people. Nobody knew these people back then. But this story is so compelling because they are the ultimate underdogs. They're the ultimate marginalized people. You had the shadow of empire upon them. You had the judgment of religious elites staring at them. They were fighting against the odds. And when they get to Bethlehem, there's no room for them in the inn. This couple, this day laborer, this unwed mother had to use their imagination. And so they go seek shelter. And the only shelter they could find is this hewn out stable from a rock. And so that is where baby Jesus is born, among not kings, queens, and princes, but among the animals. This story is still miraculous in many ways. And I don't mean that in magical terms. I mean it in true miracle ambiance. It just transcends any culture, transcends history, because they rose above the craziness and evil of this world to bring in something innocent and precious, and heaven took notice. It's just a beautiful story.
So I think you're right. I think the story still transcends so many things and
Yeah.
it still is beautiful. I do think that, like you said, we have created a fairy tale in our modern history and even before that. And I've been thinking about, again, as I've been trying to open my imagination and think a little bit differently outside of this script, and I think what you mentioned, Joseph was a day laborer, not necessarily a carpenter, as we've been told. Mary was a young teenage girl. She wasn't a woman. She they were in a barn, but it's quite possible that the innkeeper didn't want to house them.
Right.
And so there's a lot of points in the story that I think, and again, all we know is what was recorded. But there are still parts that have been cleaned up in a way that I really want to pull back and look at, and one thing that, you think about, Mary was 14, and it's funny because when I was little, they would say young woman. And then as I got to be older, they'd be like, well, okay, she was probably 16. Well, now you're hearing, okay, 12 to 14. Yeah. She was a child.
Yeah. She was coming of age.
I read the narrative again today, or the encounter of Mary and the angel. And as, again, we only have what's written, and only in the places that, the Gospels where it was written down. But yeah, I'm looking at it through a new lens now of, did she have a choice? Did she have agency over herself and her body? And I understand that culturally we're reading into a story that we can't really fully understand. Right. That women, didn't largely have choice and have agency over their lives and over their bodies. Have we come much further? I mean, I know we have, but you look at the ways where have we progressed or have we done better? And I think the story, like you said, is beautiful in so many ways, and not a but I also think we need to make sure we're doing better. Some things I kind of jotted down was, she should have had a choice in her life period, and not just in regards to the birth of Jesus. I think that we know, and we've always, in our faith tradition, God gives us a choice. You have a choice to love, to follow, to have faith or whatever. And so it's just odd to me to reconcile that this is an area where there wouldn't have been choice.
Right.
And so I don't know. It's just some things I'm wrestling with, and I'm okay in sitting in uncertainty, and I'm okay in kind of gnawing on it and being troubled by it, because I think that is part of faith.
Yeah.
It is part of the process. But the other thing, I was thinking about in looking at it, and thinking about them, like you said, in a carved out stable or whatever that they were in, we need to be doing better. Every child deserves a bed to sleep in.
Mm-hmm.
Have we made it?
Yeah.
No. No child should be hunted down by a king or a tyrant. Have we made it? Turn on your news.
Yeah.
If they came to our town today, would we give them health care?
No.
No. So are we doing any better?
Those points are so important to take from the story, because that's the reality. I mean, Mary and Joseph are the migrants in America. They are the marginalized in America. They aren't the suburbanites. They're not the members of the megachurch or the suburban church or the country club church. These are people who probably don't even go to church. These are the people who are having to work for a living on Sunday morning. These are the people, who do not have health care. These are the people who are being hunted down by ICE.
The people who are afraid to go to work. They're afraid to go to the store. They're afraid to go to Home Depot to pick up the job. I mean, these are the
who
people.
Mary and Joseph is.
Yeah, that's who they are. And these are the people that we're letting it happen. Mm-hmm. And so it's troubling. It's very troubling to think about something that happened so long ago seeming problematic within our culture, but then really peeling back the layers of our current culture and seeing that in many ways we haven't fixed it. We haven't fixed it.
Yeah, we haven't fixed it. And to me, that you get a message like the Christmas story and the message that Jesus portrayed in his life and vocalized in his life. When you don't like that message, you have to change the story.
Well, and that's funny that you said that, because in my notes, that's one of the things I mentioned is that we talked last year about the fairy tale, and you mentioned it again this year. And I wrote down, when a story is manipulated to put a pretty bow on it, we then have license to manipulate people who believe it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is a tragedy. I think we need to look at the story just like our collective American history, that a lot of people don't want to look at the problematic elements and where we've faltered and gone wrong. It's the same thing. Like, I think we need to look at this story in a very real way, keeping and claiming the beauty of it, and also knowing that it shouldn't have been that way. They should have never been in a stable.
Yeah.
The people, sleeping in our park tonight should not be sleeping on a picnic table. Yeah. It shouldn't be.
And the beauty of the story is the people themselves. It's Mary and Joseph and Jesus. That's where the beauty is. The circumstances that surrounded them, that continued to put pressure upon them. Mm-hmm. That is the reality a lot of times that we ignore. And that's what, in talking about this story, that's what's problematic about the Christmas story as it's interpreted and told today, mm-hmm. is that the circumstances that they were in is basically glossed over. And we want to get to the angels singing to the shepherds.
Right.
But the reality is, this couple and the families that we see today, who society still oppresses, mm-hmm. still says they have no agency over their body, still says you're lazy, mm-hmm. it still pushes them to the margins. That's the true Christmas story.
Right.
And it's not wrapped up in a pretty bow. It's not twinkling lights, but it's reality. And it's a reminder that Christmas is for everybody.
Like you said, it's messy.
Messy.
Just like now, it's messy.
Yeah.
Our, modern day history is messy. But here's the thing I know about a mess. If you refuse to look at the mess, you're never going to clean it up.
Ah.
And I feel like that's kind of where we are.
Yeah.
We need to look at the mess, acknowledge our contribution to it, and find ways to clean it up.
And as we limp across the threshold of 2025 into 2026,
We have one more memory to share.
We have one more memory to share.
We do. So this has become a little bit of a tradition here with Good Faith Weekly, and I'm so thankful it has been. And I'll tell this briefly because we told the story in greater length a couple of years ago. But there was one year here in Norman, America, that we had a very freak blizzard on Christmas Eve. And I mean, we had 14 inches of snow. It was blizzard, like, no visibility around. And so my favorite, thing of the year became Christmas Eve service because our family would light the Christmas candle. And it was just a very special time for many of our friends and family. And so obviously Christmas Eve services across the city were canceled. Yeah. And, you decided to brave the weather and to walk over a mile to church in like 60-mile-an-hour winds and no visibility to film, to record the lighting of the Christmas candle to put online for our members and for our friends and family. And at that time, this was not done.
This was early days of Facebook.
This would have been like 2007. Yeah. You didn't have, maybe 2008, you didn't have services streaming online. So this was really forward thinking of you. But anyways, so you lit the Christmas candle, and then we talked our younger son into reading the Christmas story and overlaying that. And it just makes me cry every time I listen to it, every time I think about it. But it is so sweet. And like I said, it was a messy Christmas. It was a tragic Christmas. So many people were without power and couldn't get to their family and all these other things. And it was stressful, even though in the beauty of the snow, it was stressful. But through all of that, we came out with this really beautiful and precious memory that I'll never let go of.
Absolutely.
So we're going to share it with you all again. And I hope it means something to you.
Yeah. And so with that, we hope that you enjoy this very special moment in the Randall life. And Missy and I will be back next year. And so we will see you in 2026.
Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas.
In that region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. Unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Christ the Lord. This will be a sign for you. You will find the child wrapped in bands of cloth lying in a manger." And suddenly there was a multitude of the heavenly host praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill towards men." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger.